I was born in 1894, 15th of December.
And where were you born?
And born in Rockbridge County. I was the oldest one. I was the first child in the family. So I don't guess they were real young, and I don't guess they'd been there too long.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Just 10.
Just. Do you know how long you stayed at that house in Rockbridge County? How old you were when you moved?
Well, I guess I stayed there all my life. I mean, till I got married, till I went away.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 21.
Okay, where did you meet your husband?
I met him, I taught school over in Rockbridge, Alum Springs, and that's where I met him.
Mm-hmm. And y'all were married and had how many children?
We were married and we had 5.
And where did you live? Where did you live?
Well, when we were first married, we lived in Covington. We lived there for, I reckon, 4 or 5 years. We were married 2 years when Jimmy was born. And then we had a little girl, Phyllis. And she lived to be 2 years old. And then she died with the flu, when they had the flu epidemic. And then after that, we come over here then. And that was 56 years ago. We come to Roanoke. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Lived in a different house than this when you first came here.
Yeah. But we've always lived right in this area, the southwest. This is what they call the old southwest section of Roanoke. And we've always lived in we haven't lived in this house, but we've lived right in this area the whole 56 years that we've been in Roanoke. Billy's 56 years old, and we come here just a little while before he was born.
Why did you move to Roanoke?
Why? Well, that goes back to after we were real young when Phyllis died, and we were just very, we were really pretty broken up. We didn't know how to take things like that too good, and I had a brother lived here then, and we come over here to visit him in late summer, I think probably the latter part in August, I reckon. We just come for a visit. Mm-hmm. And they talked us into staying, and we did. We decided then that he was working for Covington Machine Shops, and we just stayed over here then. Of course, we had to go back and straighten up things, but we never did go back there to live. Mm-hmm. From that time on, we stayed here in Roanoke. Mm-hmm.
Where did he work?
Well, he worked at different things for a long time. He was a salesman for a long time. He worked for several different concerns, automobiles, part of the time, automotive parts, and he did different things. And then, I don't know how long, he finally went during the war, when the boys went away, after Jimmy went in service, and then Billy, and then of course he knew then there wasn't too much to sell, things were getting tight, and he was afraid maybe that he was going to have to, go someplace else in a defense plant or something, He knew he wasn't going to be able to get things to sell. Mm-hmm. I believe he was with Magic City at that time, but of course he wasn't everything was just wasn't anything to sell. So anyway, he went with the N&W then. He was, I think I'm right in saying this, He was the oldest man that N&W ever hired. Of course, he never would have gotten with him if it hadn't been for the war. But all his people, all the Pattersons, he was originally from Clifton Forge, where his people were, and they were all railroad people. And he had a first cousin here, was a railroad man, Claude Patterson, engineer and all. And they just needed the men so bad, you know, and then when they found out that he did have, you know, that his people were railroad people, I guess that had a little bearing. Anyway, they hired it. I think he was 54 years old, 52 or 54 years old when he went with the N&W. So then he spent the rest of it. Now, several times he was furloughed, you know, but then they always called him back. That was where
How much did the war affect your family?
Well, of course, both of our sons were in the service, and both of them were. Of course, Jimmy was, you know, shot down and missing in action for about 3 months. That we didn't know, you know, whether he was living or what. We didn't hear anything from him. Of course, Billy belonged to the 101st Airborne, and he was in the Normandy invasion, and he jumped in Holland, and he was in 3 big invasions and jumped in all of them, and he was wounded in action too. And I guess they lived through it, but so.
Do you remember when they came home?
Do I remember what?
When they came home?
When they came home?
Did you have a big celebration when they came home?
Well, yes, I guess we did. We didn't have a big, I don't guess it was a big celebration so much as we celebrated anyway. It was the very day that Jimmy, of course we had heard then that we finally found out that he was, you know, all right, that he hadn't, and then when he got to Washington, as soon as he got to Washington, he called, you know, to tell us. And that was the night before, wasn't it, before the invasion? Anyway, it was terrible. We were terribly excited because Jimmy was in Washington, and then the next medic got the train then and went on up there. He called her. They kept him up there a few days at Pentagon, you know, what they had to. He had to go through all the other stuff before he could come on home, and then we walked the floor all day knowing that they were landing their troops in Normandy. We didn't have television in, but the radio, you know, was giving all the news about them jumping in Normandy, and we knew that Billy was right in there. And so it was right exciting times, Jimmy getting home and Billy into the service and all that. And it wasn't too long then. Until we got the message that Billy had been wounded. Of course, we didn't know how bad or anything. They just sent us the war and just notified us, you know, that he had been wounded in action. Of course, as I said, we didn't know for a long good while how serious his wounds were. And I did a lot of Red Cross work, knitting, and I stayed downtown at the, you know, the place open at night where the soldiers would come in, you know, and get coffee and donuts and things. And I sold stamps and war bonds, and all, you know, they'd sell stamps, then you get so many, then you get a war bond. I did whatever come up. I just stayed busy doing things like that. So.
What do you remember about your parents? What kind of people were your parents?
Well, they were to me, they were mighty wonderful people. They were just plain ordinary people, but they were good Christian people, and we had a very happy home life. We really did. We were all close, and
Were they very strict parents that tell you what to do and what
Well,
not to do?
no, not two. They were, they never, I don't remember of them ever having to, ever punishing any of us, you know, or anything like that. And of course, they had certain rules. They taught us, we were all, of course, we lived in the country, and it wasn't too much to, I don't know what they do, how they do it like it is now, but they wasn't too strict with us at all. They were just, they taught us. We were raised up in Sunday. We never knew Sunday come. We went to Sunday school and church. We were raised that way. It wasn't, are you going today? It's a Sunday, and that's what you did, just like you did to go went to school. That was the way we were raised. Well, then the great big, you know how hard it would be to keep us quiet, but I can hear Papa, he'd tell us, now this is Sunday, y'all be quiet today, and he'd probably read some stories to us or something like that, you know, and have in the afternoon. But if we'd get a little bit loud or run and play hide and seek or something like that, they'd call us down and tell us, remember this is Sunday. That was the way we were raised. Of course, that's the way people did then. They didn't.
What did you do the rest of the week when you were playing? What did you do as a little girl?
What?
What did you do as a little girl when you were playing?
When I was playing? Well, I didn't have a lot of toys. I just had to, I tell you, I was a type of person, I always had a lot of imagination, you know, and from the time I got old enough, after I got old enough to read, I always loved to read, you know. I can remember books that I read when I was just real young, you know, old book stories, and the children just don't read much like that now, but of course that's all we had to do. We were in the country, and there was nothing outside of Sunday, going to Sunday school and church, and didn't have things through the week. And of course, during the winter months, we went to school. We walked at least 2 miles every day, backward and forward to school. Didn't have any buses or anything like that. We lived a good little piece from the school. I graduated from high school when I was 16 years old, and then I went to Harrisonburg to school a while, and then you didn't have to have. I never did get never did graduate. Didn't get to have a 4-year, but it went and took. And then in the summer I'd take, you know, courses, and they. In teaching, and so.
Did you enjoy going to school? Did you like
yes,
that?
I always liked to go. I was a pretty good student. Yes, and we had a good high school at Rockbridge Baths. Then, and I was one of the first graduates from the high school. There was just 6 of us graduating. We were the first ones that graduated, and when you finished that school, you were eligible for any college. I mean, I had all the things all the requirements that we had a good high school. I had.
Teach? How many years did
3
you teach? 3 years.
Then I got married. One time I got married, and 1 year after, I taught 1 year after I was married. And
When you were growing up, did you have certain things you had to do, certain chores that you had to take care of at home?
Not necessarily. Of course, we all had to help, but we'd do things. I guess I don't remember having certain things. We'd all.
Yeah, you had to help out with the younger children.
Oh, yes, but by being the oldest, I would have to. Then I was oldest, and then I had 3 brothers come in before. Then Ruth was the next girl.
You had 2 girls.
Huh?
3.
See, I was oldest, and then the 3 brothers, and then. So when I got older, then when I was married, Frances was just a little girl.
Did you try to raise your children like your parents raised you?
Yes, I did. I guess I think Of course,
She didn't want
what
it.
is it? It was a difference, you know, naturally, because we were, but not in the country, you know, and we had to, I guess, but I still remember the way I was raised, and I tried to raise them the best I knew how. And we always took them to Sunday school. In church, we didn't send them, we took them. Daddy and I both. We tried to do the best we could for them.
Mm-hmm.
The girls, we gave both the girls music lessons and things that really, I mean, it was sort of a sacrifice for us to do it, but we did it. And we raised out, during the Depression, we had 4 in school at one time here. And I mean, things were rough then.
Did you have to sacrifice some things to help your children?
Yes, we did, to a certain extent. Now, we always had we never went hungry, but we didn't have any luxuries, no. We didn't, naturally. There was times when it was pretty tough. I mean, we'd had as I said, we just had, when you had the 4 of them all in school at one time, and but they all went to school, they all graduated from high school.